I, a 32-year-old female, and my husband, a 40-year-old male, have been together for just over 4 years, married for 2, and have a baby under 1 year old. The other night, on our anniversary, I asked him why we are not intimate anymore. It wasn't the first time I asked this. When I got pregnant, he stopped being intimate completely, stating that he doesn't want to hurt the baby or cause a miscarriage, as we've been through that before. I didn't protest during pregnancy because I was busy anyway, working full-time, finishing my medical degree, completing my clinical placements, and doing an online course for him for a career change, all at the same time, while he was working 8-hour shifts in a hospitality job. I gave birth over 7 months ago, and we only had intimacy 2 or 3 times. Every time I asked him about his lack of interest, he would say that he's not happy about the way he looks. He put on around 10 kilograms while I was pregnant, but other than a bit of belly fat, he looks just the same, and I still find him attractive. Anyway, on our anniversary, I pressed the matter as we also had our son at daycare for 2 to 3 hours, and I thought he might want to take advantage of that time. Eventually, he told me that from the beginning, he didn't find me as physically attractive as he imagined by looking at my social media photos, and he realized the first time we were intimate, 3 months into the relationship, that I didn't have the type of body he would go crazy for and want to have intimacy with every day. But he picked me and married me because I was marriage material, and he wouldn't have been embarrassed to present me to his family. For context, the photos he's referring to, I was 25 years old in them, in a relationship with a guy who was providing for me. I didn't have to work. I still did part-time to have some financial independence. I was sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. I was having time to exercise every day and had money to get massages, go to the spa, and buy makeup and clothes, etc. I believe I still look good. I lost all the pregnancy weight, and I'm exercising every day while the baby is in the bouncer, playing on the mat, or sleeping. I do power walks around the area where we live. I watch my food and calories. I still try to do my hair and makeup when I leave the house, even for a coffee or groceries. Sure, I don't walk around the house in the sexiest clothes because I'm looking after a baby and the house, but I'm still in gym leggings and tops. I look after myself as much as I possibly can, given that I've also returned to work, and I've supported this household for the past 5 months. Remember the course I was doing for him to change careers? He quit his hospitality job and started one in this new field where he's only paid on a commission basis, but that hasn't happened yet. I am incredibly hurt by what he told me. I feel like my self-esteem has gone down so much. He didn't help with the baby at all until the last couple of months when I returned to work, and he had to look after him for 8 hours, 2 to 3 days a week. He's helped around the house by cooking, doing laundry, and cleaning since I gave birth. But he's also not contributed financially during the last 4 to 5 months. I'm talking not even $1. He brought up his new job, saying that he doesn't feel supported by me. But how am I meant to support something that hasn't even provided for baby nappies? Not $1. I'm not exaggerating. I haven't talked to him since this conversation 2 days ago, and to be honest, I don't feel like talking to him anytime soon. I didn't know his real thoughts and feelings when I married him. I honestly thought he loved me as much as I love him and was attracted to me. He kept saying that it's a good thing because he had so many options, but he picked me because he could have never trusted those options to have a family with. I don't know what I'm expecting from posting this. I'm just releasing all my frustration and sadness here. And yes, I'll continue to work on myself to be the best that I can be, maybe even better than those photos he keeps bringing up. But I have this sad feeling that I might not want him anymore once I get to that point. What are you all thinking? Is my reaction an exaggeration? Oh my gosh, I didn't expect so many people reading and commenting on my post. Thank you all for your thoughts and suggestions. I'm on my break at work, so I'll give a general answer to some of the thoughts I read in your comments. Yes, he is coming from a culture of arranged marriages, but he's been living in this country for a very long time and has had other partners that were not from the same culture. When we started dating, we had this rule that we won't discuss past relationships. Based on past conversations, his own parents were and are not very affectionate or loving towards each other, and have been sleeping in separate rooms and living separate lives for as long as he remembers. Everything good he saw about relationships, he saw in other people's houses. Regarding cheating, I have been checking his phone, which he's always left around me and never tried to hide, and browsing history and emails, everything, and I've never found anything except for intimacy videos a while back, and I confronted him about it. He admitted that he was watching it. I told him that it bothers me, and I haven't seen anything like that since. I'm aware, of course, that there is the private option on the internet. I also have the Find My option activated on the phone, and his mobile and email are linked to it. I've been checking it every time he's left the house, and he's always been going to his workplace. So I don't know what to say about him cheating at the moment. I don't know in the future. I did tell him that I don't believe any male in his 40s would be so disinterested in intimacy, and his reply was that he's different in the sense that his emotional and psychological state affects his desire. This was before he admitted that I'm not sexually attractive to him. He has started exercising a month ago and eating better to lose the weight, like I said, only 10 kilograms, and make himself feel better about himself. He did used to look very handsome, still looks handsome to me, and I was aware that there might have been many options for him when I met him. But like I've told him, I also had options, and maybe one of those options would have loved me fully and in every way. People asking how we're surviving on one part-time income. I was on paid maternity leave until this month. That paid leave has covered our rent and bills. We also had some savings from before starting my maternity leave. As you would imagine, all of that is finished now. It wasn't a great deal to begin with, just enough to make it through. This was another thing I told him on our anniversary, that if he doesn't start working and bringing in some income, in a few weeks' time, I won't be able to cover all the expenses by myself. I saw later on that he was applying for other jobs online. He decided to leave his hospitality job due to it being very stressful. I can understand that, but every time I brought up the topic of he needs to find a paying job to help me cover these expenses, he would get upset. I did have a short conversation with him before I left for work today and told him some of the things that were heavy on my chest. As I was getting ready to leave, he looked at me and said that he loves me. My reply was that I don't believe him anymore, because this is not how you treat someone you love, even someone you just like. He said he loves me for my mind, my soul, my personality, my strength, and the way I see and handle life. All of this sounds amazing, but it doesn't make our intimate life better, or the way he sees me as someone not hot. I also told him that I am going to discuss this with my parents and tell them the entire situation so that they are aware of what's been happening. Not sure I'll do this now, as both our families live overseas, and there's no way to actually help us. It would just worry them, and that I would like him to talk to his own parents and tell them everything too, which he won't do, as I know him. He kept insisting that there's a future for this relationship and we can work on our intimacy issues. I told him he's had 4 years to work on them, and it's always just talk and promises, and nothing better ever happens. He was saying how intimacy is not everything in a relationship, to which I replied that while I agree that it's not everything, it's an essential part for me, and I can't have a happy and healthy relationship without it. He was bringing up his own emotional and personal issues that have been stopping him from even thinking about intimacy, such as the lack of income, lack of success in his job, parents living in a war-affected country, etc. While I understand this is not the first time we're having these issues, and him telling me that I don't look like a Victoria's Secret model. I told him that he's affecting my self-esteem and the way I feel about myself, and I know that I'm still beautiful, although I'm not weighing 56 kilograms like in those photos at 25 years old. I'm also 1.78 meters for context, and for the person who asked about the physical differences in these years. I weigh 79 kilograms at the moment, around 70 kilograms when we first met, but I gave birth 7 months ago, and I'm working on it every day. Not for him to like me, but for myself to feel confident again. I also said that I know I'm smart, which he can't deny. My only mistake being that I trusted him that he loved me and wanted me. I said that I want to be seen and wanted as a woman, not just as a mother or a wife. I also said that I can't even imagine being kissed or held by him or having intimacy with him again because I'll be thinking about what he confessed. I said goodbye to the baby, and I left him thinking and with tears in his eyes. I do not plan on divorcing him right this moment, but the relationship that we had is dead, and he needs to really improve and work on himself and prove to me over a long period of time that he's changed and he's working on it. Maybe I'm delusional, and he won't change and will just pretend that he's into me. Maybe he's narcissistic. But I believe my eyes have been opened, and I won't fully trust him again. When he comes to talk, assuming he does, I will make it abundantly clear that he needs a paying job by next week. I will also be clear with him about therapy and counseling, that we need it individually and as a couple, and it's a deal breaker. I understand that we need more money for that, and I'm willing to wait until he gets a job, hopefully by next week. As I said in the original post, I will continue to work on myself and my appearance even more, but not for him, for myself, to feel happy and confident in my skin and my clothes again. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This guy doesn't even like you, let alone love you. His reasons for marrying you were that he wouldn't be embarrassed to have you around his family? That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. You deserve to have someone who can't get enough of you, loves you enough to support you properly, and pulls their weight in a relationship. You're feeling used because he has used you and your uterus. Make an exit plan and put it silently into motion and quietly end your marriage. I've been in a relationship where my partner didn't particularly like the way I looked, and it was horrible. I'm now in a relationship where my partner absolutely adores me and the way I look and never lets me doubt it. I'm feeling secure for the first time in my life, and it was worth waiting for. Everybody deserves to have a partner who adores them in every way. Comment 2. He's using you for a free ride. You know you deserve better. You do not have to feel grateful he chose you. There are plenty of men out there who would choose you and be sexually attracted to you. Your husband lied to you to lock you down so he could be economically secure. Your needs need to be fulfilled too. If the gender roles were reversed, the response would be to divorce. It's up to you if you want to remain in a sexless marriage and not be desired. As far as the money situation, you need a joint bank account where he contributes half. No more free ride. Now, for the update. A couple of days after the intense convo with my husband, I decided I needed a break from home and the bad vibes. I packed my stuff and went to my parents' place for a week. Honestly, I just needed some space, away from my husband's comments and everything else going on. My parents were super happy to see me, and they welcomed me with open arms, even though they could probably tell something was up. I helped them with chores around the house and just tried to chill a bit. While I was at my parents' house, we started getting ready for a family barbecue they wanted to have over the weekend. I spent time with my mom helping her cook and just chatting about random stuff. You know, just the usual family stuff. My husband ended up joining us for the barbecue, since my parents had invited him. He was kinda reluctant at first, but he came because he wanted to show he could still be part of the family, even though things were awkward between us. During the barbecue, I watched my husband interact with my family. He was laughing and joking around with everyone, which made me realize how much I missed seeing him like that. But at the same time, I noticed he was kind of putting on an act. He was trying really hard to seem carefree and charming, especially around my parents. After dinner, my brother suggested we play some group games, and my husband offered to be the game master. He definitely enjoyed the attention and approval he got from everyone. I felt like I needed to talk to him about everything. So after dinner, I stepped outside for some fresh air and to have a little chat with him. I brought up the whole intimacy issue again and asked him about his earlier comments regarding my appearance. But he just brushed me off, saying he was going through a phase and that things would get better soon. Not the answer I was hoping for, but I didn't want to push the issue at that moment. The next day, I overheard my parents talking about my husband's financial situation. I was shocked to learn that they had been helping him out behind my back. Like, why didn't anyone tell me? I confronted them about it and wanted to know why they felt the need to keep it from me. My parents defended their actions, saying they wanted to help him for my sake. I was furious. I appreciate the concern, but seriously, what were they thinking? I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. I talked to my husband about needing to discuss our finances. He tried to downplay the situation, saying he would find work soon, but I wasn't convinced. I could just tell he wasn't trying hard enough. A week later, I returned home after my parents' barbecue. I walked into the living room and saw my husband sitting on the couch, playing video games, looking completely unbothered. I couldn't believe it. I confronted him about his lack of job searching, and we ended up having a shouting match. Frustrated and needing to clear my head, I left the house and went to a local coffee shop. While I was there, I ran into a former colleague who offered me a freelance project that paid well. I gladly accepted it and started working late nights on the project. This meant I was leaving my husband alone more often, but honestly, I didn't care. He complained about me being busy all the time, but I just brushed off his complaints, focused on my work and the money I was going to make. After a few weeks of hard work, I finished the project and was pleasantly surprised by the payment. It was nice to see my bank account grow. During a family dinner at my parents' house, my husband started bragging about his so-called plans to find a job soon. I decided to drop a little surprise of my own and announced my new freelance work and the financial freedom it would bring for me and our kid. You could feel the atmosphere change, and my husband looked like he had just bitten into a lemon. He realized he had been outpaced, and it felt good. Then I casually mentioned that I would be taking a weekend trip with my parents to celebrate my new venture. Oh, and by the way, he wasn't invited. His face dropped, and he tried to argue a little, but I stood my ground. I told him I needed time for myself, and that was that. After the trip, I returned home with a newfound confidence, ready to set clear boundaries. I finally had the talk with my husband about how our relationship needed to change drastically. He pleaded with me to reconsider, but I stood firm on taking a break from our marriage. I filed for a temporary separation to give us both space to think. It felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I started focusing on myself more, attending yoga classes and reconnecting with my friends. I had forgotten how much I enjoyed just being me. The other day, I planned a family vacation with just me and our kid, leaving my husband behind. It felt empowering to make that decision. That's where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to figure things out for myself and be happy. To answer a few questions, my husband has made a few attempts to find a job but hasn't been serious about it. He often makes excuses or says he's waiting for the right opportunity. As for the temporary separation, it's more about giving us space, not permanent. I'm focusing on myself and our child. Am I the idiot for wanting a break from my fiancé who treats my free time like his playground? I am a 32-year-old female, and I have been dating my fiancé, a 30-year-old male, for 3 years and am now living with him. When we met, he worked a very high-stress job, and about 6 months ago, I started a new high-stress job. I work 60 hours a week, consistently, which has been rigorous alongside learning a new field of work. I have very little accumulated time off, so my free time consists of Saturdays and Sundays. While his job is very intense, he often gets off work early or has random days off that I do not have. On the days he is off work and I am working, he is really great about taking care of himself, pursuing his hobbies, and working on house projects. He has complete autonomy over what he chooses to do outside of work. However, the second I am done with work for the day or for the week, he begins micromanaging what I am doing with my free time, which is the time I do not spend running errands or cleaning the household. If we do not go on an adventure, complete a task together, or go work out together, then he complains to me that he feels like it is free time that has been wasted. If I spend a Sunday afternoon cleaning the house, he considers it time wasted. It has gotten to the point where on a Saturday, after running errands, I try to get cozy and read a book. and he complains to me that he does not want to be cooped up in the house all day. When situations like that arise, I have explained to him more than once that I do not want him to be bored, so he should go do whatever he wants. He makes me feel guilty for inducing boredom in his life, and I think the fact that he follows adventurous couples on Instagram has not helped. His hovering and simultaneous dissatisfaction with how I like to spend what little free time I have makes me anxious and nervous, so I often just let him take the reins and become his activity sidekick to avoid the conflict. However, even then, he will make comments about the fact I seem tired when we are out and about. To be frank, with the intensity of the new job and the hours I work, I am tired, and I just want to reclaim a few hours each weekend to relax. However, if I stand my ground and ask for some time to myself or time where we can mutually relax together, I can almost guarantee that a few days later, I will hear from him that we wasted our Friday night and that he wishes we were more interesting as a couple. I love him, but I feel like I have lost my autonomy. I miss being able to do whatever I want without being judged. I do not know what to do. Further details. He has lots of friends he spends time with when he is not at work, and we spend time with them when I am off the clock. I have talked to him about his dissatisfaction and showed him the intensity of my day-to-day work life, and he will soften up for a few days and then revert back to the same complaints. He has refused to go to individual or couples counseling. Now for an update. I started an open conversation with him today to express the concerns I posted about below. It did not go well. The conversation quickly devolved into him saying he feels like a villain or a monster, which I did not call him, and asking me why I was even with him if I think he is so terrible. I am not going to lie. His reaction completely derailed the original intent of the conversation, and I do not think any resolution was formed. I am resolved to try again when he has had time to collect himself. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't think I'd marry someone with such a different idea on what's acceptable for free time. Relaxing and getting some rest is not wasted time. Some people genuinely need that to recharge their social battery. He wants every second to be busy and moving. That wouldn't work for me, and this issue won't get better when you're married. Legally, it makes things harder if you decide you don't want this stressful lifestyle anymore. I think you need to have an honest conversation about what you need from your free time and how his expectations and hovering are making you feel. If he's bored with you just relaxing from time to time, really consider if you want this long term. Comment 2. Time is our most valuable resource, and as an adult, you are in charge of managing, allocating, and spending yours as you see fit. If he wants to do something, then he can propose it with the understanding that you are not the same people. You do not have identical priorities. You are an autonomous human being. He is not the boss of you. Sharing time together is one thing. Dictating and complaining about how you choose to spend your time after having done chores and errands is not okay. Now, for the update. A while back, I posted about how I was struggling with my fiance's need for constant adventure and his micromanagement of my free time. I tried to communicate my need for personal space, but things just got worse. Well, now I have an update, and it's not pretty. Some months passed since that last conversation, and honestly, it just felt like more of the same. I was working super long hours, and whenever I had a moment to relax, my fiancé would be all over me, wanting to do things together. I love him, but geez, it was exhausting. We went to a friend's wedding together, and I thought it might be a fun distraction from everything else. It started off okay, but during the reception, my fiancé suggested we dance. At that moment, I was just so tired from work that I had to decline. I told him I wanted to sit and rest for a bit, and you know what he did? He went out to the dance floor alone. I watched him go out there by himself, and I just sat there feeling all kinds of uneasy. He looked so happy and carefree, dancing away. Then I noticed him exchanging phone numbers with this other guest he was dancing with, and my heart just dropped. I felt so uncomfortable and decided to step outside for some fresh air. While I was out there, I overheard my fiancé on the phone with someone, and he sounded so animated. I couldn't catch everything, but I heard bits about having fun and going out again. At that point, I was like, Uh-oh. When he came back in, I confronted him about what I heard and the phone number exchange. He just brushed it off, saying it was a friendly interaction and nothing serious. I was like, really? The tension between us escalated, and it caught the attention of some of our friends. It was just so embarrassing. I decided to excuse myself and left the wedding early, going home alone. The next day, I texted him about needing to talk, but he was totally dismissive. A few days later, we both went to a family dinner at my parents' house, and during dinner, my dad casually asked about our wedding plans. My fiancée joked about eloping, and it made me feel so uneasy. My younger sister must have sensed the tension because she chimed in, asking if we were having issues. My fiancé shot her a glare, and I just wanted to crawl under the table. After dinner, I pulled him aside to discuss everything, but he got so defensive. He accused me of overreacting and not trusting him, and I just couldn't believe it. The following weekend, we attended a friend's barbecue, and it felt so off between us. He spent most of the time chatting with another couple, and when I tried to engage him, he brushed me off. I walked away, hoping to find a quieter spot to collect my thoughts, but then I overheard him talking about our relationship with another friend. He painted our relationship in such a negative light. He said he was just venting, but I felt so betrayed. We had a huge argument that night, and I suggested we take a break. He didn't take that well at all, claiming I was running away from our problems instead of facing them. So I decided to take some time apart, moving into my own place temporarily. A month went by, and we had a scheduled dinner to discuss our future. At dinner, he showed up with flowers, and for a moment I thought maybe things would be better. But nope. We talked about our issues, and the conversation just spiraled into blame shifting. He seemed shocked by my words, and it left him silent for a moment. It was like all the things I had been saying just hit him, but he didn't want to deal with them. So, yeah, that was a huge mess. I'm still living in my own place, and we're trying to figure out what the heck to do next. I just feel so lost right now. Edit. Some people have asked why I didn't see the signs earlier or why I didn't break up sooner. To be honest, I thought we were in a rough patch, and I had hoped that things would improve. I love him, and I kept thinking that once we communicated better, everything would be okay. I didn't want to give up on us. I also didn't realize how deep his need for attention would go. I feel embarrassed about it all, but I'm working on moving forward. Am I the idiot for wanting to escape my wife's anxiety and reclaim my life? We have been in a relationship for 12 years and married for 8 years. I love my wife with all my heart, and she truly is a great person. Beautiful, funny, loving, all of the good stuff. However, her anxiety has been controlling our lives for the past 10 years. After years of selfless support, I finally am not sure if I can deal with it any longer, or at the very least, I just don't know what to do anymore for her to get better, for my life to get better, and especially for our child, who is becoming more and more aware of the situation without exactly knowing what's going on. I will try to outline the situation we were in and how things are right now. The worst point in our relationship and the low point of her anxiety was during her pregnancy. I could not leave the house without her. I even had to wait outside the bathroom door when she needed to go. We constantly had to leave the grocery store because she had panic attacks. We had to turn around before leaving our small town and return home when we had out-of-town appointments. Maximum 30-minute drive. I put all of my energy into making her feel comfortable, being there for her during this crucial time, and once the baby came, things slowly but surely got better. Today, we can go shopping without any stress most of the time. We can do things like going out, attending a concert, or going to a party every once in a while. She even went on weekend trips with her friends on 2 occasions. I was incredibly proud of her for that, because I saw her struggle every time until she got picked up to leave. She was nervous and anxious, constantly saying, "I can't do this," the 3 days before the trip. I did my best to comfort and support her, and she pushed through and had a great time. She has been in therapy for many years and has tried every other method and doctor. She has explored everything from mediums to energy work, hypnotherapy, and so on. Some of it helped, a lot didn't. But at least there is a little progress, slowly, but no end in sight, and I am exhausted. I'm not able to do anything without her unless I plan it weeks in advance. Even then, she will make me feel bad right before I leave, leading to endless discussions that always go in circles. I make my point that I understand she is not feeling well when I am not there, but that I also need time for myself. We have this discussion every time I have to go to the office once a week, go to sports practice once a week, am invited to a party, rarely, but she always asks if she can come along. Most of the time she does. There are more occasions, but you get the idea. The other part that is really hard for me is that when I find something I like, she is never really supportive. I do sports and love it. I would like to practice more, go to special training sessions once a month with external coaches, etc. I see myself thriving there, but my wife is stressed out every time I plan something, and now I am stuck at one practice a week and a long discussion every time I want to do additional practice. I get that her anxiety tells her I need to stay home, but this is also the case for things I can do from home. As stress relief, I play video games and stream them. It's not a big channel, but I love it and have made some great friends through it. She doesn't understand it, but in the 4 years I have been doing this, she has not once watched the stream or asked anything about it or the games I play. It would feel so good if she would just ask, "How was the stream?" once, but she only complains about me being in my room 3 or 4 times a week instead of being with her. I get it, but I need this to balance things out. My focus, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is to make my wife feel less stressed and support her, as well as making sure our child has a good life, everything they need, and that their schoolwork is done. Our child is another big part of our lives, obviously, and recently he has been asking a lot why mom can't go to places with him, like the library, or take him to sports practice. I also need to accompany my wife to everything she is doing, every doctor's appointment, and lately she started going back to school, which is usually in the evening or on Saturdays the whole day. They don't fully understand why they need to stay with their grandparents when only mom is going to school. I can't take the child and do things near her school on Saturday because most of the time I just wait outside the classroom or the cafeteria for her to feel safer. At least that way, I am really catching up on my reading. We talked to our child and explained her anxiety in terms he could understand. He does understand it to some extent, but of course still wants to do things with only me or only his mom. Now lately, I have been struggling a lot more than in the years prior. I feel like I have anxiety, just without the symptoms. Let me explain. My wife can't go outside on her own because of her anxiety. I could, but I can't. I hope that makes sense. I feel like all of my freedom and the things I love to do are taken away from me. Over the past years, I have missed birthday parties, concerts I would have loved to attend, trips with my friends, bachelor parties, and so on. I miss doing all that. I love my wife, and I want her to feel better, but at this point, I am not sure if I can continue like this. I'm sure I forgot half the things I wanted to say, but you get the idea. Thank you for letting me vent a bit, since I can't really talk to anyone about my side of things. My mom would be too worried. I don't have any close friends anymore with whom I could discuss these kinds of things, and I would make my wife feel even worse when I express these feelings to her. Now, if you made it this far, do you have any similar experiences? Do you have a partner with mental health issues or anxiety? How do you cope with that? I am interested to read your thoughts. To add, thank you all so very much for all of your comments. It really means a lot to me, and I appreciate all of you very much. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am the partner with anxiety. I had chemotherapy, behavioral therapy, haptonomy, and oxazepam periodically for anxiety attacks. The thing that really stands out to me, though, did none of the therapists tell her or you both that always going with her, holding her hand, etc., is actually validating her feeling that there is something to be scared of. It validates her feeling of fear. She might have even made it into a coping mechanism. Something bad, anxiety attack, health scare, my heart racing will happen unless I am there. Her brain and her body are lying to her. I needed chemotherapy to realize all this, coupled with exposure therapy, in very small steps. But I also have a son who is 7 years old. I want him to have a mom who can do things, who can call the doctor for him, etc. It's incredibly hard, but I got a lot better over time. I am 37 now, started therapy at 24. Example, during postpartum depression, I had an immense fear my newborn son would slide under his blanket and suffocate. I had to check every 15 minutes or so. Not lying. My therapist forbade me to do so, because had I ever found the blanket had slipped up? No. So she allowed me to check 2 times. 1 when I put him in bed for sleep just before I left his room. 2 when I went to bed myself. No more. It was hell. The first nights I cried, being sure I would find him dead. Every fiber of me wanted to check. But after a week, that feeling got less and less. My son never slipped under. Comment 2. I am really sorry that you're going through this, but it is never okay to control another person's behavior, anxiety or not. I struggle with bad anxiety, but my self-awareness and care for those around me would never cause me to do this. These long conversations you get into prior to planning something for yourself and basically not having your own freedom to act is incredibly troubling. That is controlling behavior, regardless of whether it stems from anxiety or not. This is so far from okay, and you honestly need to start laying down some strict boundaries because all you do is enable her. I know it sucks to hear because you're trying your best, but you're contributing the more you allow it. Your child should not see this behavior modeled. It is a very unhealthy relationship framework. Therapy only works as much as the client wants it to. She wants to decrease her symptoms of anxiety, ultimately. One way that she has found to do that is to control your every move. This is her therapeutic treatment, and it seems she has accepted it. It seems you have too. Seriously, decrease your time going with her to class. Don't let your wife prohibit you from doing things that make you happy, and at some point, have a talk with your daughter to explain what mom is going through. If she refuses to adapt, divorce may be the only healthy option for you and your child. I wish you the best of luck. Now for the update. I can't believe I'm back here with an update. It's been 3 weeks since my last post about the struggles with my wife and her anxiety. I decided to take a weekend trip with our kid to visit my parents, hoping for some family support. My wife agreed to stay home, saying she needed some alone time to recharge. I packed our bags and left on a Friday afternoon, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. My parents welcomed us warmly, and our kid was excited to see them. On Saturday, we went to a local fair, which was a fun distraction for both of us. While at the fair, I got a text from my wife asking what we were doing. I replied with photos of our kid enjoying the rides and food. She replied with a short message saying she was feeling lonely. I didn't think much of it and focused on spending time with our kid. Later that evening, I called my wife to check in. She seemed distant on the phone, which was unusual for her. I brushed it off, thinking it was her anxiety. On Sunday, we got back home and I noticed my wife was on edge. I asked her about her weekend, and she said she had a rough time. I offered to help with anything she needed, but she snapped at me to stop asking. That evening, I got a text from her friend Sarah asking if I was home. I replied yes, and she asked if she could come over. When Sarah arrived, she seemed nervous and asked to speak privately. She told me my wife had been struggling more than I realized. I asked for specific examples, and Sarah mentioned my wife had been texting her late at night. Sarah said my wife had expressed feeling overwhelmed and isolated. The next day, I tried to talk to my wife about what Sarah had said. She became defensive, accusing me of not understanding her struggles. I tried to explain I was trying to help, but she shut down completely. A few days later, I noticed my wife's phone buzzing a lot. I glanced at it and saw texts from someone I didn't recognize. I confronted her about it, and she said it was just a friend from an online group. That night, I checked her social media and found more messages that didn't sit right with me. The following weekend, my parents invited us to a family dinner. During dinner, my brother joked about my wife's absence from family events. My wife quickly replied that she didn't need to explain herself to anyone. The tension was obvious, and no one knew how to react. After dinner, I tried to pull her aside to talk, but she refused. When I returned, my wife was in tears, talking quietly to my sister-in-law. I overheard my sister-in-law say she was worried about my wife and her mental state. I tried to approach, but my wife shot me a look that stopped me. The night ended with her saying she needed a break from everything, including me. A few days later, I found out she had been spending time with someone from an online group. I learned this when I saw a message pop up on her phone that mentioned meeting up. I confronted her again, and she admitted she felt lost and didn't know how to cope. Edit. My wife revealed that the person she met online was someone she connected with through a support group. She felt they understood her struggles, which led to her emotional distance. We're now discussing couples therapy as a way to address the issues in our relationship. It's a difficult path ahead. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.